Hello. Today I wanted to talk about my diagnosis period that I went through, which was long and frustrating to before I was diagnosed with PSC. I know it's not uncommon. And before I dig into that, I wanted to give a quick update. Tomorrow will be 1 week since I was released from the hospital for my third cholangitis flare this year. Last day of antibiotics, which I'm glad about that, and feeling pretty good. I was able to walk on the beach this morning and looking forward to a nice 4th of July weekend and staying healthy. Um, for me, it all started in 2017, and I didn't know it was liver related at the time. But in that summer, and I'd never had any experience with stomach pain or ulcers or anything like that, and which is what I thought it was. I started having pretty severe stomach pains, and I was working with my doctor, and he was treating me. He thought maybe it was an ulcer or some kind of reflux, and so I'd go back about every 2 weeks, try something different. It wasn't working, and he was just the last visit I had. He said, "I'm going to refer you to a GI," and I was in Texas at the time, and the next day coming home from work, I suddenly got super sweaty, bloated, had to unfasten my pants, could barely drive home, super fatigued, and pretty much just hit the couch. And then when my wife got home, she took me to the ER, and I had pancreatitis, and my gallbladder was full of sludge, and my liver was backed up. So I spent about 5 days in the hospital while they got that cleared up, and they took out my gallbladder, and nobody could really explain what had caused it. Um, but I got home, started feeling better, and got back to life, and didn't think too much about it. I know the next year we had moved, and by the time I got to my annual physical, the one note the doctor had was, "Hey, your alkaline phosphatase is just slightly elevated. It's a liver enzyme." Didn't have any idea what it was at the time, and she said, "No big deal. We'll just watch it." And again, this was a year later, in August of 2018. Well, at the end of 2018, my wife and I went to get life insurance. We wanted to add some external, non-work related life insurance. And we did all the stuff, took the physicals, and hers flew right through. Within a week, we had her policy in the mail, and I didn't hear anything and didn't hear anything. And a few weeks went by, and I called the agent, and finally she had the underwriter call me, and they said my enzymes were out of whack, and that I was table rated. So I wasn't necessarily declined, but I'd have to pay 5 times or something like that more per month than what I had thought I was signing up for. And so my first mission then was I didn't think about disease or anything like that because I felt pretty good, but I was on a mission to get my liver enzymes under control so I could qualify for life insurance. So I went back to my doctor, and by that time, which was just about 3 months later after my annual physical, my enzymes liver function tests were off the chart. The alkaline phosphatase was in the 400s with the gamma GT, and AST and ALT. All those things were elevated, quite a bit higher than they had been in August. And she ran a bunch of blood tests, and then referred me pretty quickly to a GI doctor. And that started the year and a half process that I was talking about of looking for that cause. And again, my main motivation, and I had it in my mind that, hey, I'll figure out what I'm doing wrong here, or what I'm either eating something wrong, working out too hard, something's got my liver inflamed, and I'm going to get that under control and get life insurance. And the frustrating part was we would try something, wait 6 to 12 weeks, come back, do a slew of tests again, and wait for results. And it was things from, don't take any ibuprofen, we'll see what happens in 6 weeks, don't drink a beer for 12 weeks, try not running for 2 weeks before the blood test. Um, and so I would say the first 6 months was probably taking things out of my diet from vitamins and supplements and ibuprofen and Tylenol and stuff to see if that made a difference. And it did. And the numbers kept increasing slightly. And then I started doing the ultrasound, which didn't show a whole lot at that point. And then in about a year after starting that process, I had a liver biopsy, which it seemed like it took 2 months to get results back on that. And it kind of came back as indeterminate, said maybe I had drug-induced liver injury, uh, but nothing definitive. And so since it said drug-induced liver injuries, my GI doctor again said, make sure you're not taking any ibuprofen, any Tylenol, any vitamins. I wasn't taking any prescriptions at the time. And we did about 6 months of things like that. And he finally said, well, I'm going to do an MRI, with the MRCP, take a close look at it. In the summer of 2020, those results came back. And I remember me and my wife were on a camping trip, and I was reading them, and he called and he said, I throw my hands up. I can't figure this out. And I looked at the impressions and the notes from the MRI, and it had mentioned, my left lobe was atrophied and my right lobe was hypertrophied or had gotten bigger, and there was some dilatations and nothing about strictures at that point. But and I had no idea what any of that meant, of course. And but he did. I think the blessing of all that was referring me to. He said somebody he had worked with before that was super smart up at Cedars-Sinai, and so again, I went up to Cedars-Sinai, and they took all the biopsy and looked at the MRI and ran their own blood work, and pretty quickly figured out that I had PSC. Um, which was kind of a double-edged sword. I was shocked on one point to learn that I had a chronic, liver disease that was progressive, and but I was relieved at the same time to finally be out of that hamster wheel of all the blood tests, and it kind of started a long process of testing and so forth that I'll go into in a later video. But if you happen to be in that hamster wheel, I called it, or in that process, I'd just say just be patient and hang in there. Advocate for yourself. Don't try to be the doctor, but just know that for some it's a long, frustrating diagnosis process, and hang in there.